So we have understood what is meant by a variable, right? Okay, but we still have to understand many things still further. And now we know that we have two statements to declare the variables. What are they? One is we have a dim and we have a constant. Also we have public and private. Those also can be used, but I told that those won't make any much difference as of now. So that's the reason we avoided those two. Okay, but doesn't mean that we need to avoid them and we need to use them, but not now. Okay, so in the future. Okay. Now, when you declare a variable by using dim, okay, so it will get a dynamic nature. So what is meant by dynamic nature exactly? Okay, is now let's say here, I'll say str first name. I have declared a variable like str first name. Now initially what I do is I'll assign the value like str first name equal to some value. I've assigned this. After that, just I displayed this value. Just assume that I've written some piece of code here in between. After some lines of code, what happened is, okay, the first name has been changed. First name has been changed. I want to change the value in that particular variable now. So what I do is now I'll say str first name equal to this time some other value that I assigned here. So what I mean to say is, what I mean to say here is, in case, okay, now you have got one variable. Initially you have assigned a value for that particular variable. So after that, so while using it or in between the program, then you need to, or you got a situation where you need to change the value of the variable. Okay, now will it allow that change or will it not? Answer is yes, it will, because as I said, okay, when the variable is declared by using dim statement, right, it's a dynamic. When you say dynamic, the variable can be, or the value of the variable can be changed anytime, no problem, and not just once. You can change a number of times within the program. Now let's say here, let me execute this piece of code. Okay, let me execute this piece of code, that whatever we have written. Now see, this is the first value what I have assigned. Right, so this is the first value whatever I have assigned here, right? So after that I click on OK. Now we can see the second value has been displayed. So that means that the changed value, whatever the value that I have changed, the variable is accepting that change, right? Now in the remaining lines of code, which value will be there? Only the changed value, second value. Remember, even though you have changed it at a time, only one value will be there, that is the latest value. Till the line number 7, this value will be carried in str test name, test will be there. But from line number 8 onwards, from line number 8, then this value will be carried in the remaining lines. Or in between, again after 8th line, in between, again you got a situation where you need to change the variable. Of course you can do it. Okay, you can do it. Right. Now, so when I say dim str first name, did I say this variable as variant to the script? I have not told. I just declared by using dim statement. And remember, whenever you declare the variable with any statement, not only dim, public or private or constant, anything, by default the variable will be variant. Okay, so you can assign any type of value here. So now whatever I have assigned, both are string values, right? And if you ask me, say initially I assign string value and later, okay, can I change the value from string to numeric? I mean, can I assign the numeric value now? So this time what I do is, instead of assigning string value, I'll assign a numeric value. It's an integer value. Now will it allow, will it not? It will allow. Answer is it will, because it's a variant. When it is a variant, it allows any kind of, you can change the value. Initially you might have assigned a string value, later you can change to date or you can change to numeric. It allows any type of value, no problem. Initially that's a test, and after that you can see it's taking a string value. So whenever you use dim statement, a variable will get a dynamic nature, and where you can change the value at any time within that program. Anytime, any n number of times. It's not like only you have to change only once or twice. N number of times you can change the value. Okay, remember this. Okay, now what I need to do is just assume that now the first name is being constant. Just say first name is constant now, and I don't want to allow that variable to get updated in between the program. Whatever the value that I assign in the beginning of the program, the same value has to be carried throughout, and no change is allowed for that particular variable. I have to make that. So what does it mean? I want to make a constant, the variable as constant. Then how do you make the variable as constant? Where we have another statement called constant. Okay, so const. But there is a slight change when you are using a constant variable. Okay, so how I'm doing now, how I'm declaring and using the variable, you can see I'm declaring variable in one line, and I'm initiating the variable in another line, right? So declaration happened here and initiation happened here, another line. But remember, when you are using constant statement, declaration and initiation should happen in the same line. So declaration and initiation should happen at same time when you are using constant statement. So when you are using constant statement, it should be like this. It should be like this, const, and variable name equal to value. So what you have done here in this, declare the variable and initiated in same line. It is mandatory. You must have to do in the same way. If you say that no, I declare the variable, in one line and I initiated in another line, as like when I did for dim. If you say that okay, no, I want to do like that, no, that's wrong. That's how the syntax has been defined here. So when a variable is made as a constant, then the initiation, declaration and initiation should happen in a single line. Okay, so remember this point. Now let's see like what happens now. Earlier it was allowing the change, right? Allowing the change. But now I made it as a constant, and let's see what will happen now. First value this is. Then what happened here? It's not allowing the change. What it says here? No. Illegal assignment of str first name line number 7. Line number 7 is nothing but this. So the assignment, the second value, whatever that you have assigned now, the change of the value is illegal here for that variable. Why it is illegal? Because that variable is constant. Because that variable is constant, no change is allowed for that particular variable. Got what I'm saying? Okay, so how you declare the variable by using constant? You have to say constant variable equal to value. Value has to be provided in the same line where you have declared it. But if you say like, okay, earlier what we did, when I used dim, this variable is declared in one line and as initialized in another line, right? Let me try to do the same thing here. I declare the variable by using constant statement. After that, I am assigning the initializing the value, sorry, initializing the variable in another line, and let's see whether it will work or not. What it says here, line number 3, and it's expecting equal to there. It is expecting equal to. Why it is expecting equal to? When it expects equal to, when it is expecting some assignment, then it expects equal to symbol then. So expecting equal to here. When it is expecting equal to, that means okay, there should be something provided here also at right side of the equal, right? Mandatory. So that's what it is. It is expecting some assignment of the value here at line number 3. Line number 3 is nothing but where we have declared that constant. But for dim it did not show, right? So whenever you are using constant, remember that the variable has to be declared and initiated in the same line. Variable has to be declared and initiated in the same line. That's it. Getting what I'm saying here? So very important. These are very important. The basics. Okay, so basics are very important. Let me know if you don't understand something. Okay, so again we can repeat with another example. That's not a problem. Yeah. Right. Okay. What happened here? Expected statement, syntax error. Because remember, when you just give equal to we use in two situations. One is either you're doing a comparison or you're doing an assignment. When you're doing in both the situations, there should be a value or a variable provided both the sides of that equal to, right? So when you're that's a syntax. According to the syntax, when you use equal to, both the sides either value or variable has to be placed, right? So you have to declare and you have to initialize in the same line whenever you are using constant. After that, when I do this, what happened here? First time it is taking the first value, but whenever I change the value, it is throwing the error saying that it is illegal assignment. Got? Okay. Now there is an interview question here. Okay, for constant, you are declaring the variable and initializing the variable in same line for constant. Can't we do it for dim statement? So dim statement, how we are doing? Now assume that you are using only one variable. You know the value for that variable. What I want to do is now, okay, what we are doing, we are declaring the variable in one line and initializing in another line. But instead of using two lines, can I do both in the same line? Yes, you can do it. You can still do it, but syntax will be little different. It's not like that, how we have done here for the constant. There is a slight change here. Okay, the change is like this. You say dim str first name. That's a declaration. After that, you use colon. Use colon, dim variable colon, and write the variable again. See how the syntax is now. First you declare the variable and write the colon, and then you initialize the variable. So when you are using dim statement to declare the variable, you have to use like this. I mean, in case if you want to declare the variable and initialize it in the same line. If you want to do that, then you need to use it this way. But okay, so this is one of the interview question. How do you declare and initialize the variable in same line when you are using dim statement? Okay, so keep note down those interview questions. The basics. Well, so it should work now. It should work. It's taking the value. But in case if you say like this, if you don't use colon, I'm just using like as like constant. Let's see what happens now. throws the error. Line number 2, expected end of statement. That is also a syntax error. So it's not allowing. So the syntax is dim variable colon variable equal to value. When you know the value in the beginning itself. So that instead of writing it in 2 lines, and you can write it in a single line. That's it. Okay. So this is how normally you declare the variable. And if you know, so whatever we have declared till now, whatever we are using till now, what type of variable we are using? Scalar variable, right? So with constant or with the dim, whatever we have used now, scalar variable. So scalar variable is used to assign a single value. It can hold only one value at a time. So a variable can be a dynamic or variable can be a constant. And when a variable is a dynamic, the change of the value can happen at any time of the program and can happen n number of times in the program. When the variable is constant, now whatever the value that you assigned in the beginning, the same value has to be carried throughout the script. No change is accepted in between the program. That is constant. Okay, so that is constant. Okay, so remember this. And even though the variable is dynamic, you change the values, only the latest value will be there. And if you say that, okay, line number 2 you assigned some value and you used some value in remaining lines, at line number 10 you updated the value. From line number 10 the second value will be carried. If you say that no, I don't want line number 2, sorry, I don't want the value which I assigned at line number 10. Now at 15th line I want to use the value which I have assigned at line number 2. Can it happen? It cannot happen. But what I'm saying, in line number 2, I have assigned some value. Then I have used till line number 10. At line number 10, I changed the value of that variable. So from line number 10, only the changed value will be carried throughout. But if you say you are at line number 15 now, and you want to use the value which is assigned in line number 2, not at line number 10, will it happen or can it happen? It cannot, because the variable value will be overwritten. As soon as you assign the second value, the first value will be gone. Only the latest value will be there. Okay. Only the latest value will be there. Remember. Okay. Right. So this is about the scalar variable, but we have not done it. There are few things that which you should take care when you are using the variables. This belongs to standards. Okay. So the standards what you need to follow, or some of the things that you should take care when you're using the variables. Most common mistakes that people do here. Most common mistakes what people do when you don't have any background of any scripting. Okay. Remember one thing, you should never write the variable name with spaces. A variable name can never contain the spaces. So what people do, some of the mistake is, they'll say when the variable is first name, when you say first name, they will write like this variable. That cannot be accepted. A variable name cannot have any space in between. A a variable name cannot contain any special character in between except underscore. A variable name can have underscore in between, but no special character. A variable name value can have. I'm not talking about the value. I'm talking about name of the variable. So name of the variable should not contain any space or any special characters except underscore. It allows underscore. A variable name can be alpha or alphanumeric. That means a variable name, like you say single character variable A, B, C, those are variables. Those should be alpha or alphanumeric. It could be. Should start with alpha character. A variable name should start with alpha character. Okay. And a variable name can be minimum of one character. Variable name length could be minimum of one character, maximum of 255 characters, but you don't define that much lengthy name. But a variable name should be minimum of one character, maximum of 55 characters. And as I told, variable name is not case sensitive. You can declare the variable in any case, no problem. And a variable name should never be duplicated within the scope. Please highlight this line. You will understand slowly. Within that scope I told, right? Within that scope. Please highlight that within that scope line, because I am not going to explain it now. That we will be discussing thoroughly when it comes to the functions. Okay, user defined functions. A variable name cannot be duplicated within the scope. Within the scope. Okay, with any statement, no problem. Now assume that you have said div str first name. You have declared the variable. The same variable should not be declared again, even though you use a different statement. Now we say I've declared the str first name with the dim statement. Can I declare the same variable or with constant statement this time? No, you cannot. So variable name should not be duplicated. And this time it's all this what I told is mandatory things that you should take care of. You should take care of. And this time I'll tell you a standard which probably you have to follow. Okay, the naming conventions of the variables. That's a standard naming conventions. In a sense, if you look at that, when I say the variable here, how I have defined the variable, I said like str first name. Now, by looking at the name of the variable, can you understand for what I am using that variable, what value that I am assigning, what value I will be assigning? First name of the variable, right? But if I say like, okay, variable name is just some A, or I'm using a variable name like this, A, B, C, can you understand what is the scope of purpose of that variable? Nobody can understand it until unless they see the assignment there, right? It will be difficult. Now assume that for time being, you declare the variables like this, a b c d, something like some variable names which are not understandable. Now while writing, that will be okay for you. Later during the maintenance of the code, like later if any change required and all, when you go through the script, the variables, if you see like that, then you only will get confused within your code itself, why you have used these variables and what I'm assigning or not, right? So that leads to a lot of confusion. A variable name should be always self-descriptive. Self-descriptive in a sense, just by looking at the name of the variable, everybody should be able to understand what is the purpose of the variable, what kind of value that we are going to assign to the variable should be meaningful. Now also I told that something called prefix. Prefix in a sense, why I said here str name, why I can't say just first name. Str means string, that means I need to assign the string value to that. Or when I say date, like dt, dob. When I say age is an integer, right? I age or int age, right? Or flag variable, true or false, bln flag, bln stands for boolean. Okay, so like this, you have to use prefix for the variables. Make such kind of habit always. Why should you do that? Just to make your code understandable, just to make code it's for, yeah, mainly for understandability and also for standards. Okay, also for standards. So always make such kind of habit. Don't just use the variables for time being like a b c, that don't do that. Okay, so because whatever the practice you make here, the same practice that you are going to do in the interview as well as in the reality also, right? So whenever you practice it from the beginning itself, please follow the variable naming conventions properly. Just for time being, don't use just x and y. Maybe it requires, if you follow the standards and all, your coding will be bit easy, sorry, bit slow earlier, because when you use just x and y and all, you can write a little faster, right? But even though it is slower, that is okay. That will be in the beginning only. Once you get such kind of habit, then you can speed up. Okay. So whenever you are following, whenever you are practicing, and whenever you are writing the variables, please take care of these things. Use a proper variable name according to what type of value that you are assigning and what value you need to assign to that, and make sure that you don't give any spaces. I'll tell you why people give the spaces. Okay. But people who has got a background, other language background, they will be okay. But if people are beginners and they don't have any technical background, they write the spaces. The reason, because we have an habit, like when you say first name, right, we consider those as two words, first name. So when you write the notes, people write like that, first space name. So whatever you write in the notes, same thing that you will write. That's what I have observed from many of the people, right? So that's the reason why I don't give too much notes in the scripting and all, because what you write in the notes syntactically it is a bit different. You don't write the same thing that whatever I wrote here. You keep include the spaces in unwanted places and all. That leads to a lot of failure, right? So don't keep the spaces in between variable names. I reiterate that, because this is one of the most common mistake that I have seen from the people, not from you, from the seniors, your seniors, and not only your seniors, even the other people. When I take the interviews and all, this is what happened from for many people. Okay. So don't do that mistake again. Got? This is how normally, okay, we use scalar variables. Right. Now, as I told, array variables are two types actually. One is a scalar variable, and second one is an array variable. Right? Scalar variable and an array variable. What is meant by array? Yeah, so where you store collection of values. Array variable is nothing but collection of values. Okay, now the question is, why do I assign the collection of values? Why should I assign the collection of values? Why can't I assign a single value at a time? Why should I do that? Okay, take some simple examples now. Assume that, okay, so I have, assume overall I have 100 students in 4 batches, right? So 4 to 5 batches, I have 400 people. Now I want to store all the people, because I might need to call every person, or maybe something that, okay, I want to store each and every student's name there. So if I want to store that temporarily, the student name, and for 100 people, how many variables I need to use? Assume that I'm going for a scalar variable. So 100 variables I need to use, right? Now increase the count. Maybe assume that I have 200 students now. How many variables I need to use? 200 variables, which will make my life very, very difficult, right? Which consumes a lot of time. Tomorrow again the student count is increased. Again I need to declare these many variables, which is a difficult activity again, right? So now instead of doing like that, instead of assigning one value to one variable, now I'll do like this. Okay, so I'll do this way. What I do is these people, 100 people, or maybe some 200 people, whoever are there, I will divide the people into batches. I'll divide the students into different batches. Now instead of assigning one person to one student, I will assign all batch students to one variable. Right? Assume I have 4 batches. I declare 4 variables. In each variable, instead of assigning one student there, batch of students I will assign to that variable. Right? That will be easy for me. That will be easy for me now. Simply, you are actually following it in real life also. This one. Now you take that. Okay. So you say this way. You take your library. Take your personal library or a public library thing. Now, when you say a personal library, then you will be having hardly some five, 6 books, just to say that. right? You will be having just 5 6 books. How you keep them? For each book you just create one rack there, right? And you can keep each book individually there. Since there are very less, you can create this many racks and then you can keep it. Easy for you, right? Okay, now assume that you have a huge library. Maybe you have some thousands of books in it. Can you create one single rack for one book now? It will be very difficult for us. Then what we do now here, instead of that, okay, so we will create a big rock there and we'll keep multiple books. Like you divide them into the category now, all history related books in one rack, and what do you say, maybe fiction one rack, science related one rack, and then the technology related another one, like this. That means you don't keep one book in one rack now, so you have to make a big one and then you keep multiple books in one rack here. Got? So normally we do this. So normally what we do here, okay, when the collection is less, when we get some amount of objects or some amount of values, then we can go by individual, we can store each one as an individual, right? But when we get the huge amount of values, we don't consider or we don't treat each one as an individual. What you do, you group them and you maintain by group wise, right? You maintain, you do it in the real life also, you're doing it in your real life also, right? Okay, a simple thing, I'll tell you another example for the scalar and array. Now you, how many people use WhatsApp? Okay, now what you do is, I assume that, okay, so I'm just here. Now I have to consider, I have to communicate the batches, batch timings and all for everybody, right? Now what I do here, assume that I'm using a scalar variable kind of. When I say scalar variable, one person individually I need to treat. Now if I do like this, what should I do? For every individual person I need to send the message, and which makes my life very difficult and it consumes a lot of time, right? So that's the reason what I do, instead of communicating individual one, and I group all the people into one batch, right? I created a group there and then I communicated to the group of people. Why do I do that? For easy maintenance, right? Now that group can be an array where multiple people can be joined in one group. So that means instead of maintaining an individual, I still can maintain as an individual if I need. But if more people, more and more people are there, if 4 or 5 people, that is okay for me. I can maintain each one as an individual. But when more number of people are there and huge amount of people are there, then so it will be difficult for me to maintain the individual ones. So that's the reason what we do, we group them together. We group them and we communicate through groups, right? So that's where the array and scalar variable comes into the picture. When the amount of values what you have are very less, then you can go one value and one variable. But when the amount of values what you have got are huge, not only huge, maybe it's very dynamic, I don't know. Sometimes that it's you are going to understand it, what is meant by dynamic there. Then it will be difficult for you to declare induce our scalar variable for one value. So that's the reason what you do, instead of keeping them in one variable, sorry, instead of keeping one value in one variable, you group those values, store all the values in one variable related to that group. That's called as an array. An array is used to store the collection of values. Wait, I've not yet come to that. Okay, so you have an option. When you assign the values to an array, and it will use something called index. Okay, by referring to the index you can call the individual one further. Okay, so I have not yet come to that, so you will understand it. Okay, so keep this question. Got what I'm saying? All right. Now again, when it comes to the array, got the meaning of array? So just is a array is group of values or collection of values. Array can have a collection of objects also, but we have not yet come to the object level. Okay, so we are just understanding the values for now. Okay, an array again can be array is two types. Array is again two types. One is a fixed size, a static array or a fixed size array. Second one is a dynamic array. Array again two types. One is a static, second one is a fixed. Sorry, a dynamic array. I'm sorry. Second one is dynamic array. Fixed size array or dynamic array. Then, what is the difference between these two, fixed size and dynamic array? Again, take some examples. What's that? You said that's right. What you said. All right. Dynamic means can be changed. Okay, that's true. Okay, so let's take some examples. Not exactly, it's it. Now you have a phone like this, iPhone, you say, and you have a Samsung phone or a Sony something. Take the memory. Consider only the memory. I'm not talking about features or anything. Just consider the memory. Now, when it comes to the iPhone, how the memory will be coming? You say 16 GB or 32 GB, 64 GB, like this, right? So it depends on like how much amount of data that you are going to have in the future. Also, you take for a particular memory, right? Now, I say you have taken 64 GB, right? Now, whatever the values or whatever the data that you have or the applications or anything, whatever, you have to store within that 64 GB. Or now, once that 64 GB is filled out, will you be able to expand it? It's a fixed memory, right? It's a fixed memory that you get. So that means the size or the memory size is defined in the beginning itself, and whatever the values you have, you need to store within that memory, right? And you will not be able to expand it. You will not be able to expand it. But now take these phones, maybe Samsung or Sony, all those. You will get something like expandable memory, right? It's a expandable memory. Then what is meant by expandable memory now? Okay, now what you do, expandable memory doesn't mean that automatically expanded. Will it automatically expand? No, you need to do it further. So initially what you need to do depends on number of values you have. Now assume that you have very less data in that. Now we say like maybe some 4 GB data, 4 GB memory is fine for me. Then what you do, insert 4 GB memory card and then you start using it. But once after the 4 GB is filled out, what you do, you can take that 4 GB out and you can expand it to 8 GB. And if that is also filled out, take that 8 GB out and go to 16 GB. Take that 16 GB out and then 32 GB. But there is some limit there, but here there is no limit. So what it means here, this is called dynamic array, you can say. Whereas the dynamic array is a kind of an expandable memory which can be increased. I'm not saying that which will be automatically increased, which can be increased at any time. So meaning is different. So you forget about the VB script. I'm not talking only about the VB script. So as I told, this variables and arrays concept and are quite common across all kinds of languages, any language. So tomorrow you go for Java or you go for .NET also, this will be same. This will be same. Got what I'm saying? So this is how the fixed size array and a dynamic array. Let's take some more examples. Okay, so to understand much better of it. Right, now you take two examples. One is you say a bachelor room is there and you take a PC. Two simple examples. Now when you take a bachelor room, what will you do now? In the beginning you make an agreement, say that okay, only 4 people will be here or only 5 people will be here, right? We will be making that agreement for sure. Now when you say 4 people are there, only 4 people will be there, you have to keep according to the agreement only. You are allowed to stay only 4 people in that. Now any 50% is illegal, right? So now what you do when you're taking a bachelor room, you take an agreement in the beginning. That means you define the size, how many people are going to stay here. Then you have to you have to keep the people according to the agreement only. That cannot be broken in between, cannot be expanded, right? Okay. Now take the PC again. What you do now, will you be able to, will you specify the size that in the agreement say that only these many people will be there? No. What you do, I just take some memory, it's a huge memory, right, or huge space. Then first, okay, according to how many people that you are going to have in the beginning, first you do the adjustment. Then if more people comes in between, what you can do, you can keep adding or you can keep increasing the space there, right? So you don't specify how many people you are going to there in the agreement itself. In the agreement, it's just a kind of space that you take, that's it. How many people are there, then depends on how many people will be joining. Then you can keep expanding, you can keep expanding, no limit, right? So now this is the difference between a fixed and a dynamic array. Fixed means, okay, in the declaration itself, right, in the declaration itself you define the size of it. Say, okay, only this many values that I'm going to store. And when you define the size of it, okay, so whatever the size you defined in the beginning, you have to define, you have to assign only same amount of the values. You will not be able to increase more. And tomorrow you say that, okay, initially you told that I'm going to store 6 values in this array. Now you are allowed to you are allowed to store only 6 values. You will not be able to assign more values, and size also cannot be increased in between. The size is locked. But when it is a dynamic array, then what you do, initially you don't need to specify any size there. You just say that, okay, so create a memory, that's it, in the beginning. After that, okay, whenever you get any values, new values, you can specify size. Okay, create the memory or resize the memory to store these many values. Later, if new values have come in between the program, then this time you are allowed to increase the size or decrease the size of the array. So what you are getting here, when you are using fixed size array, whatever the size you give in the beginning, the same size has to be carried throughout. Whereas when you use dynamic array, then so you don't need to maintain the same size throughout. Whenever the new values have come in between, then you can increase the size of the array at any time. Okay, you can increase the size of the array at any time, right? So this is the flexibility that you get between a fixed size array to a dynamic array. Okay, now so this is something that which we should be mandatorily expert in this. Okay, we have to, we should know, because this is one of the very important concept in the basics. In most of the interview questions asked, have you used arrays? Yes. Then what type of arrays you have used? Then I have used both fixed and dynamic. Can you explain the difference between fixed and dynamic? Okay, now you explain the difference. Fine, you said that, okay, we can increase the size. Then can you tell me how do you increase the size of an array, dynamic array? Lot of things, okay, so which you should be knowing. Okay, so now remember when I told about variables, right, scalar variables, is I said that, okay, declaration of the variable is not a mandatory, but when it comes to an array, declaration is bit mandatory here. The reason, because it has to understand, your script should understand whether you are using a fixed or dynamic. That has to be specified mandatorily, right? You are using fixed or dynamic. So that's the reason you must have to declare it array. Okay, now the question is, how do you declare the array? Say dim. You can still use dim statement only here. Then I'll say my array. Just name some name I have given, but you can give any name, no problem. You can give any name there. If you declare like this, it will become scalar variable. Even though the name is like my array, but it is still scalar variable. But how do you make it as an array? Then you have to use something called a parenthesis. Okay, a regular braces or regular brackets you have to use. But how do you specify it is a fixed or dynamic? Simple. If it is fixed, you have to give the size in the beginning. Whenever you declare it, if you provide the size of that array, then that is called as fixed. Okay, so a fixed size array means while declaration you have to give the size declaration itself. But dynamic array in a sense you give the empty parenthesis while declaration. Okay, now first we will go for fixed size array. I said my array of 5. What does it mean? How many values I can store? 5 values, 6 values. How many people vote for 5? 5, 5, 6, 5. Okay, remember the size what I have given there, size is nothing but index size. Index always starts from 0. Okay, so when I say 5 here, that means it is 0 to. Okay, so I know that you are from a Java or .NET background, right? So in Java or .NET, it is 0 to 4. But in VB script, it's 0 to 5. That's good. Maybe when you're comparing with other languages, that is good. That's how you learn a new language always. Okay, so when you are learning Java, when you are using Java or .NET, when you say 5 there, it's still 5 values only. You can use 0 to 4. So the 5 there you mention amount of values that you stored. So amount of values will be stored based on the index. Again, you store the values for index. When I say 5 values I need to store, I need to start from 0. Array is always 0 based index. Generally, it uses index. So in other language, it will be 0 to 4. In VB script, it is 0 to 5. When I say my array of 5, it is actually 6 values that you can store and it should be 0 to 5. The count remains start from 0 only and it should be 0 to 5. Okay, so now when you declare an array like this, when you declare an array like this, then the memory will be created like this. Okay, so in the array, so memory will be created like this. So initially, so this is how the memory would be. Say this is 1. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how the memory will be created. So how many cells will be created? Total 6 cells will be created in that. Right? Now, if you want to assign the value into that array, or if you want to retrieve the value from the array, what you need to do? You need to refer particular index. Okay, so always. So now a memory is created with 6 cells. Then each cell will get an index number to refer. So the index number, the first cell address will be referred as 0, last cell address will be referred as index 5 here. So it is 0 to 5. So that's a memory that how it creates. Okay, now if you want to store the values in this, you cannot directly say like this now, as like you did for scalar variable. You cannot assign the values like this. What you need to do now, you need to assign the values for each and every index number. Each and every index number. Then to assign this, you say my array of 0 equal to val 1. My array of 1 equal to val 2. My array of 2 equal to val 3. My array of 3 equal to val 4. My array of 4 equal to val 5. My array of 5 equal to val 6. That's it. So now I have assigned the values like this, right? So if you do like this, let's see how it goes actually. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the memory gets created like this. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is how the memory will be created. Now 0 is this, 1 is this, and 2 is this, and 3 is this, and 4 here, and this is 5. So each value will be stored in a respective index. When I say my array of 0, then it refers to this index and stores the value here. Sorry, val 1. And when you say here my ref 1, then value gets stored like this. Val 2, sorry, val 3, val 4, val 5, val 6. That's how the values get stored in the array. Okay, so this is the memory of the array, whatever I have declared. Now, if you want to retrieve any value, what you have to do? You have to again refer the index. So if you want to retrieve the third value of the array, then you have to refer the index size 2. If you want to refer the fifth value of an array, then you have to refer index 4 then. Right? So remember, you must have to refer the index to retrieve the value. Okay? So now, if I do like this, message box my array of 2 or my array of 3, what is the value that will be displayed now? Val 4. Val 4. My array of 3 I have given, right? What is stored in 3? Val 4. So it returns val 4. But some of the people, what they do the mistake is, when they use the message box, they will give like this, message box my array. You know what they are trying to do here? All the values. But remember, that is not possible. You cannot display the array directly in the message box. You always have to refer the index number and take the individual value and you need to display. Okay, so what I have done here is wrong. It's a wrong syntax. You cannot display the array directly in the message box. All the values cannot be declared. There is another way of doing it and wait for some more time to do. Okay, so we need to use some inbuilt function and all to do that. So, but you cannot, if you write like this message box just array name, and then you are thinking that all the values will be displayed, but you cannot display all the values once in a message box from an array. You must have to, whenever you want to retrieve a value from an array, you must have to refer the index number. Mandatorily, you have to refer the index number. It says here type mismatch. What is the line number? Line number 13. Line number 13 is this. It says type mismatch. So it's a syntax error. But if you say, then it should written as val3. So this is how you take the individual value. When it is stored in an array, how you take the individual value by referring index number. That's it. Okay, now remember one thing. When you are using an array also a variant. Each index number in the array or each index is nothing but a variant here. Okay, which means that this is also one of the interview question. Can I assign a different type of values in a same array for different index numbers? So what I mean to say is the for 0 index, what type of value I have assigned? A string value, a numeric value I'm assigning, and let's say here a date value I'm assigning, and I will assign a flag variable, sorry, a boolean value there. I'll assign a float value. I assign an empty value here. So if you look at that, for 6 different index numbers, 6 different types of values that I have assigned. One value is a string, one value is a numeric, one value is a date, or another is empty, or boolean, all this, or double value like this. Will it accept or will it not? But forget about VB script. Another language, will it or will it not? It will not. Even for array also, you must have to specify the data type there. So the data type is applicable for all array there, not for a particular index of the array. Okay. Now we say in the other language, if you say like this, string, you have to declare the array also like this. String my array, you have to use in square brackets there. Say like this. So how many values I can store in that? Now assume it's a Java or it's a .NET. 3 values only. Okay, so 0 to 2. In other language, it should be 0 to 2. Now all 3 values should be string values only. You cannot assign any type of value, any other type than string. That makes the difference between other language and this language. Okay. Right. So you just remember, you don't need to write these differences now, but later once after completing this, VB script and UFT, I'll be referring to Java and Selenium. Okay. So later, so this will help you that time. Okay. So if you learn one language perfectly, then the second language it will be very easy. But how you learn the second language? Just by doing the comparisons, that's it. Okay, you don't need to spend this much effort all the time. Okay, so this is just a kind of headsets, sorry, heads up that I'm just comparing now. Okay, it's a head, right? So it will allow now. Okay, when I say 2 here, what it will retrieve? Date value. Now when I say, okay, 4 here, sorry, So it will retrieve this value 23.78. Right? So I mean, when I executed that, it didn't throw any error. When it didn't throw any error, what does it mean? It is accepting. Right? It is accepting. So remember, you can assign any type of value for any index. No restriction in that. No restriction. Okay. Which one? Normally date will be assigned within a hash, but it can be within double quote also. But when you give within double quote, by default that will be considered as a string value. So for date, normally you give within a hash symbol. Okay, set address. Right. So this is how normally we can use fixed. But now let's say here how many values I have assigned? 6. Right? How many values I have assigned? 6. But assume that I've got a seventh value. I got a seventh value here. What should I do? Seventh value, since I've got seventh value, if I go like this, valid or invalid? What will happen if I execute? Let's see what happens. What happens here? Look at the error. Subscript out of range. That means, okay, the index whatever you have given is been out of range here. The range of that array is 0 to 5, but you're using the index as 6, which is not a valid, right? So that's what you will be getting normally. Okay, now let's do this. How many values I can assign? 6 values, right? Okay, so now how many values I have assigned? I have assigned 6 values. Still, I have assigned 6 values. But what I have done is valid or invalid. But I can store 6, right? Even though I have stored 6, but the index matters here. What index? So I have to assign 6. I can assign 6 values, but those 6 values must be for the index 0 to 5 only. Okay. Now, forget about how many I have assigned and how many values are there in array now. 5. Okay. How 6? Empty. Okay, so I assigned 5 values, but if the number of values are there in that array is 6 remain, because if you are not assigned any value for any index number, by default an empty value will be there. Empty also a value. Okay, so how many values are there in that array? It remains 6 only. Okay, even though I have assigned 5 values here, but I have not assigned the value for index number 2. So if I have not assigned any value to any index number, then by default empty value will be there. So number of values are there in array remains 6 only, but out of 6, 2 are empty. One is my ref 5 is empty and my ref 2 is empty. 4 non-empty values and 2 empty values will be there. Okay, by default empty value will be there for every index number. In case if you don't refer, by default empty value will be there in that particular index. That's a default value. Huh? Okay, so if I, what is the index number I'm referring here? 4. 2378 it will be. Now let's see here. I'm not assigned to 2, but I'm trying to retrieve the value from 2, right? Index 2. So what should be the output? Empty. That's empty. So if you don't assign the value, By default, it will be empty. Empty also a value. Option explicit doesn't matter here. Option explicit is just for variable, not for the index. What you use. Still empty. Right? Got what I'm saying here? That's a fixed size array. Okay, now just consider the dynamic array here. Okay, so how I go and fixed. Sorry, the difference between fixed and dynamic. Yeah, it will. It can. Where? Here. Line number. Ah. Okay, like this. No, it should be like a two kinds variables. It will be right. So true should be a single value, or if it is string, that's valid. So a space within the double quotes is valid, right? A space without double quote cannot be constant. Okay, so this is something common across all the languages. Okay, so now let's say here, this is how you declare a fixed size array. But now what kind of array that I'm using now? Now what is the definition of dynamic array that I told? We can assign n number of values. We can we can keep increase the size of the array anytime. Okay, so by taking the definition, what I have done is right or wrong? Where? That's right, but where? What he said is right answer, but where? Index number. Runtime, the size has to be again defined. Okay, so let me take a simple example. Okay, so the fixed and the dynamic. Now just you say that I have a classroom. Just you say that each batch could be an array. You just say. Okay. So assume in the beginning I have a condition like this. I'll be allowing only 20 people in the batch. The maximum of 20 people in the batch, not more than that. Just you say that. Now only 20 people can sit in that, right? So what I do now? I'll just arrange the 20 chairs in it, and that count should never be changed because maximum of 20 people. If any person comes, 21st person comes, then fine, it's already filled and you will be in the next batch. Just use it. That's a fixed. I fixed it. But now let's say a dynamic, right? Dynamic array. So when it is dynamic array, what I have done this time, okay, so my nature is like this. Maybe initially there could be some people, I don't have a limit. Say I don't have a limit. First, initially, if 10 people have come, I start with the 10 people. But when the batch is going on, some other people can join in between, so that the batch count will be, the people count will be keep increased. Happens, right? Okay, now assume that this is the room that I have got to accommodate the people for the batch, right? Okay, now what I did is I have taken a huge space which can be expandable. You just say that. I just taken the space. No arrangements made, no chairs have been made in this. Right? No chairs have been made in this. I just taken the space. When I have taken the space, huge space, and assume that there are 10 people have come. right? 10 people have come. And okay, so they came, I need to start here. I just say that, okay, go and sit in that room. Those 10 people. Getting what I'm saying here? I've taken this room, which is a huge or expandable memory, just constant, and I asked them to go and sit. That's it. Where they go and sit? I've not made any chairs or anything. I've not. Can they sit on floor? No. Immediately what they say? They come say, where should we sit? There is no space to sit there, right? Got? Okay. At the same time, take this phone, your phone maybe. Assume there is a zero internal memory. It is an expandable memory. When it is an expandable memory, they say unlimited expandable memory. That's what they have said. Now, when they say unlimited expandable memory, does it mean that you can directly store your applications or files and all in it? Can you store directly in it? You can't. What should you do? Even though it is an expandable memory, first according to the size what you have, the data what you have, first you need to give the memory card first, right? So you have to give the memory card according to the size. Later, if that size is not sufficient for you, you can take it out and then you can increase. So when I say expandable memory, is it like an automatic increase or you are giving that? You are giving. That's what dynamic array also. When I say dynamic array, doesn't mean that it automatically expands whenever you assign the values. But it will not automatically expand. What you need to do, you have to give the size again, but only flexibility that you get is you can increase that size anytime in between the program. So don't consider that when it is dynamic array, it will automatically expanding. It doesn't automatically expand. It can't do that. So you have to first do the initial arrangement based on initial amount of the values what you have got. Later on, if the values are increased, then you will be able to increase the size anytime and a number of times. That is the flexibility that you get. A dynamic array doesn't mean that it will automatically increases the memory. Now here, what I did is I declared the dynamic array, right? But I try to assign the values here. When I try to assign the values, did we define the size of an array again? Did we define that how many values that I'm going to store initially? I have not defined it. When I have not redefined the size, or when I don't give the size, it will not have any index number inside it. Remember, it will not have any index number inside it. Even zero index number also will not be there by default in a dynamic array. Even though it is a dynamic array, even zero index also will not be there by default. What should you do now? Now, just when you say declaration dim myref empty parenthesis, you just created an expandable memory. After that, depends on number of values you have, you give the initial size. That means you have to redefine it. That's called redefining the array. Then the question is, how do you redefine the array? Write down the statement called reading. Reading. Statement is reading. This statement is used to redefine a dynamic array. I said redefine a dynamic array. Redefine a dynamic array. Okay. So now initially assume that I have got how many values? 6 values. So I'll say redeem my array of 5, so that I could assign 6 values. Later assume that okay, so I have assigned 6 values, I've written some lines of code here. After that I got some additional values again. Some more values have come. In such cases, what I can do, I can increase the size of the array now. What does it mean? Am I increasing 8 values or am I increasing 3? 3. So existing is 5 plus additional 3. That's what I'm trying to do here. Getting what I'm saying here? Now whenever you get the additional values, you can increase the size of it. Now I have assigned 6 values here. I have assigned 6 values of that. So since the value collection is increased, then what I could do is, sorry, say my array of 6 equal to my array of 7 equal to my array of my array of 8 equal to some values like this. Now after that assume that I got some more values later on. Again I can go with redeem. So you can keep increasing whenever required, you can keep increasing. But when it is fixed size array, then you will not be able to increase. Right? You say here my array of 9 equal to my array of 10 equal to, okay. Now execute this. Sorry, it's a dynamic array, right? So it is allowing now, right? So I mean I have increased the size. But now let's say here what type of array it is. I've given fixed size array, right? Now assume that initially I have 6 values I have assigned. Later some more values have come. I'm trying to increase the size of the array, right? So I'm using redeem now. Let's see what will happen here. What happened here? The array is fixed, which means it's a fixed size array and you cannot use redeem. Remember, an array can be redefined or resized only when it is a dynamic array, and an array cannot be resized or it cannot redefine when it is fixed. Fixed means it will be locked. That's it. The size will be locked in the beginning itself, and you are not allowed to change the size of it in between. Okay, now don't get confused. I'll show you other one. So it is a dynamic array. what I'm doing, message box my ref4. What will be the output? So what I'm doing is I'm displaying the value myref4 before I read it, after I read it, right? Before I redefine and after I redefine. What should be the output now? Two times it should say 23.78. Okay. Giving? What's giving? Empty. Right? So don't get confused. I will explain you. This is the last one. That's okay. Now, I'll give 7 or 8, something, anything that you can give within 6, 7, 8. I'm giving before I redefine, after I redefine. That's my ref 8. So what will be the output now? 3, 4, 3, 2, 4. 3, 4, 3, 2, 4. Giving? What's happening? Right? Now let's say I'll try to get the value from 0 to 8 for I equal to 0 to 8. You don't need to understand the loop for now. My array of I. So just I'm trying to retrieve the value from 0 index to 8th index. I have assigned the values for all the indexes, right? One minute. That's the first one. Variable is undefined because I have used ops explicit. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What happened? All values are. Let me know what you understand from this. I'll say 0 to 10. So this okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Values are there for 9 and 10. Okay. Now, same loop I will do here, but this time till 8 is a maximum, right? I'll say 0 to 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Any observation you made? No. What you guys said is right, all answers. But what's happening is exactly take this rule again. I say so. The same thing. What I told. Initially, I just say that I start with the 10 people, and people the count will be keep increased. So that's the reason I said this as a dynamic thing. Okay, so I have taken a huge memory. So initially assume that 10 people are there, right? I will arrange 10 chairs. That's called reading that room of 10 or room of 9, 10 chairs, right? 9. After that, what happened? Asked people, 10 people to sit in each chair. First person with seat number 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Now later, assume 5 more people have come. So what should I do? My intention is, my intention is just add 5 more chairs to existing 10. So existing index is 9, right? 9 plus 5, 14. It should go to 14. That's my intention. But how my script understood this now is, okay, when as soon as I say read him my area 50, 14, room of 14, I am asking to add extra 5. 9 is already there, asking to add extra 5. But how it will take is, okay, existing memory is not sufficient to the user. Let me do one thing. Let me scrap the existing memory. Let me scrap the existing memory and recreate that memory with 14 chairs this time. So when it scraps the existing memory, then existing whatever are there will be removed, and if any people are there will be thrown out. Now what it will do? It will arrange a new 14. Now what I thought is existing 9 will be there, so that I asked new 5 people to sit from 10 to 14. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now 0 to 9 empty. 11 to 14, sorry, 10 to 14 people are there. Now after that what I thought is, okay, so what happened is there are 5 more people have come. Then what I did, again I asked my script to increase the memory to 19. What it thinks now, okay, again existing memory is not sufficient, let me scrap the existing once again. So it removes. When it removes, along with the chairs, people also will be moved out. Now I get 19 now. But I thought that, okay, 0 to 14 are already there. Then new people I asked to sit from 15 to 19. Now how many people are there? 0 to 14 it is being empty, and 15 to 19 people are there. So what is happening when you use redeem? It is not like expanding it. It is scrapping the existing memory and recreating the memory. When it recreates the memory, what will happen? Whatever the values are already there in those indexes which were assigned earlier, that will be removed completely. Only the values which you have assigned after redefining it, only those values are being there. So that's the reason you say after using this, 0 to 5 have been empty, but only these values are being there. After doing this, where is it? After doing this, 0 to 8 are being empty and only these values are being there. But is it right? If I do that, it will be a loss for me, right? What should I do now? Okay, I need to ask my script. Say that I don't mind you recreate. I don't mind. But what you should do is, when you recreate also, you reserve the previous values into same index numbers. Right? And you restore the values to same index numbers. That should happen. Right? So that's what we should do now. But when you use redeem, that will not reserve the previous values. Old values will be erased completely. Only the new values, whatever you have assigned, only the new values will be there in it. Only new values will be there. But this is an interview question. What happens when you use redeem, only redeem? Then it will remove the old values and only the new values will be there. Whatever the values were assigned for previous index numbers, those values will be removed automatically whenever you use redeem. But that should not happen, right? So why I'm increasing the size? It's not only to store latest values. I'm increasing the size because old values should be there for me and new values also should be there for me. So what should I do? What I should do is I change the syntax a little bit. What that I have added? Something called preserve. Write down this preserve keyword. This statement is used to preserve statement is used to retain the previous values. Retain the previous values when we redefine the array. Retain the previous values. Retain the previous values when we redefine the array. When we redefine the array. So it should not be like preserve redeem, it should be redeem preserve and the array. Okay, now 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the values are there, right? Same thing what I do now. Here I have forgot to use preserve. Forgot to use preserve. But here I have used preserve. Here I have used preserve, right? And here I forgot to use preserve. Now what will be the output? But here I have reserved, right? Okay. So only 9, 10 values will be there and 0 to 8 would be empty. 0 to 8 would be empty. The reason because if you forget to preserve once also, it will scrap. No matter, even though you have used preserve earlier, but latest one, if you forgot preserve, gone. So that is the reason what you have to do is whenever you redefine the array, make sure that you use preserve keyword. Huh? Yes. Initially I did not use it because initially no values were there, right? For first time you don't need to use. But from second time onwards, whenever you redefine the array, make sure that you use preserve keyword. It will erase this. Yeah, so it will reserve from 6 now. Because by the time this happened, it scrapped the old values, right? 0 to 5 were scrapped, and now only from 6 to 10 it will be there. 6 to 10. So if you want to see that, so we'll see, we'll execute 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, empty, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so very important interview question this is. How do you retain the previous values of an array when you redefine? Well, say the one question. Answer is we use preserve keyword. Or second question is what is the use of preserve keyword? Third question is how do you redefine the array? How do you redefine the dynamic array? By using preserve keyword. Got what I'm saying? So this is how normally we use dynamic array. But also what you can do is, here we are increasing the size, right? But for a dynamic array, you can also decrease the size. It's not only about increasing all the time, you can also decrease. So what I'm doing is reading my array of 3. What will happen now? For I equal to 0 to 3, what will be the output? 0 to 3. And what will be the output? Empty or the values whatever are there? It will be empty only. It will show 0 to 3 will be executed, right? The size will be set to 3. Now I as said, if earlier I set to 5, then after that I am setting to 3. So that means that fourth index and fifth index I am trying to eliminate. But even though you are decreasing the size, but still whenever we use redeem, then it means that you are redefining it, you are resizing it. Okay, even though you are decreasing also, you still have to use preserve. Even though you are decreasing the size, you still have to use preserve keyword. Remember, this is also an interview question. So now if you see here, 0, 1, 2, 3. But when I say 4, then what will happen? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is error. Why? Fourth index is not there, right? I redefine to 3 and fourth index is not there. See, I value will be 0 to 4. But when I value is 0 to 3, it was working fine. 0 to 3 empty value has come. But when it comes to 4, it is throwing the error. Why error? Because I am setting the array size to 3 only. There is no index number called 4 now. So that it throws the error saying that subscript out of range. Right? So why the error is because look at here. I'm setting to index 3 only. I'm setting to index 3 and 0 to 3 were empty. But fourth is the error. Why fourth is the error? No index for 4. In fourth index is not there. It's redefined to 3. So even though you decrease the size, you see that still it is being empty. So if you use preserve now, it will retain the value. So 0, it will show this. 1, it will show this. 2, it will show this. 3, it will show this. But 4 and 5 will not be shown. But another interview question is, one more interview question I'll tell you. You have to delete the, see when I use reading, decrease the size, it is decreasing the last index numbers, right? It is eliminating last index numbers. Yeah, now it will show. If you use preserve, earlier I did not use preserve, so it was showing empty. Now I'm using preserve, it should show now. First 4 values. Array of 3, right? Array of 3 means 4, 0 to 3. So since I use preserve, it is showing the values. But if I don't use preserve, even though it deletes, but it's not like that it just deletes it. It will remove the complete memory and recreates with 4 index. That's what happens. Okay. So another interview question is, I don't want to delete the last index number. What I need to do? I need to delete the index number which is in the middle. I mean the value which is in the middle, not the last one. But when you resize it, last values will be eliminated. But I don't want the last values to be eliminated. In the middle one, I need to eliminate 0 or 1 or 2, somewhere like that. But for that, you cannot directly do this way. You need to write some logic. Wait till we start with the logics, loops, and conditional statements. There I will explain this. Sorry? And no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay? So, fine. So, this is about the dynamic array. So, what flexibility we are getting between a fixed size array to a dynamic array? In fixed size array, the index whatever you have given in the beginning, same index throughout, you will not be able to increase the size of it. So whatever the values that you have, I mean number of values, that what you thought of assigning earlier, same number of values need to be assigned. But when we use dynamic array, then what is the flexibility we get? We can increase the size of the value anytime, but wait for some more time to get the real-time examples for this. But we must have to, we are going to get plenty of the examples for this, but just understand the purpose now, so that in the we take real-time example, it will be easy for you to understand. Huh? Okay, fine. So this is okay. There is one more thing here. In array, again, there is another thing called dimensions. There is something called dimensions. You know what is meant by dimension? Okay, now let's say here. Let's say I have an example like this. I have an Excel file. Whatever the data is there in the Excel, I need to take all the data from Excel to an array. Got what I'm saying? Okay, now in an Excel, in how many dimensions values will be stored? Each dimension is nothing but a collection. Like maybe it could be a columns or a row. But in an Excel, how many dimensions it's going to store? Two-dimensional values. Always you have to, in Excel, can you say first value, second value, third value like that? No. How you refer in the Excel? First row, first column. First row, second column. First row, third column value. First row, fourth column value. So row is one dimension, column is one dimension. Right? But it could be three-dimensional. Right? How I can say three-dimensional? A sheet, inside sheet, first Excel file will be categorized into sheets. Each sheet again categorized into rows and columns, right? Now you can refer the value like this. First sheet, first row, first value. First sheet, first row, second value. First sheet, second row, first value. How many dimensions I'm mentioning now to mention the value? Three-dimensional. Why we categorize like this, or why we define this many dimensions? To store the values easily and to categorize the values again. Right? When you have multiple collection of values, what you can do? You can create multiple rows. In each row, you can create multiple columns. Each collection can be in one row that you can store. In this row, multiple columns. Second row, multiple columns. Third row, multiple columns. Why do you need to do that? Why we are doing it? To store inside one memory itself, inside one array itself, you can store multiple collection of values. Okay, that's a two-dimensional or three-dimensional. In a similar way, how it is you are storing in an Excel, you can also store it in array. But again, what you have to do is you need to create something called dimensions in the array. So whatever we are using now, we are storing only single collection of values. This is called a single dimensional array. By default, an array would be single dimensional. But an array can be multi-dimensional, a two-dimensional or a three-dimensional, maximum of 60 dimensions. Okay, so an array can be multi-dimensional. So we can have a single dimensional array or we can have a multi-dimensional array. In multi-dimensions, you can go with 2 or 3 or maximum of 60 dimensions, but we never use that. Maximum we use is 2 or 3, not more than that. You never get any situation more than 3. Okay, more than. Fine. We would stop this. Okay, so this session here, and this multi-dimension will start tomorrow. I will explain tomorrow, as well as we are going to start with some inbuilt functions on that tomorrow. Okay.